We all have bad days in the office every now and again, but today is a different day. Today is a great day because I'm here, Jemish Patel, to talk to you about Thrive Diaries Volume 2 with me and my best mate here, Mr. Dhru Shah, or is it Dr. Dhru Shah?
Oh, Mr. Dr. Dhru. Whatever, Dhru, man. Dhru works, doesn't it?
It does work. Dhru, everybody knows Dhru, right? But what is this thing about Mr. and Doctor or Miss? Are we allowed to call dentists doctors now?
I suppose so. I think, dentists, doctors, PhD, they get doctors, like Dr. Iftikhar Khan. Medical, they get doctors. Listen, does it matter?
No.
End of the day, it's about being the good human being, right? Healing people.
Yeah. Healing people, not just in terms of teeth and in your mouth, but also healing people when it comes to thriving. So what is this about Thrive? What is this Thrive business?
Spirit. It's about that vibe. Thrive's a vibe, right? Everything you do, you've got to have a vibe of positivity, energy, making a difference, and knowing it's helping you grow. There's probably no proper word for this, but when you're doing something, if you feel deflated, it doesn't work. You may feel energized, you may feel passionate. Are you making a difference at the same time? Just passion, I don't think works. You've got to have something that's got passion, purpose, direction, everything coming together. That's what we're talking about. High energy, high change. Funny, actually, you say that. Just as we were working today, the Gallup survey came out today. The Gallup does engagement surveys every year. 168 countries around the world. They get tens of thousands of data. I haven't seen the full survey, but I can tell you one thing. In 2024, engagement's gone down. So only 20 to 21% of the world's workforce are engaged. The rest of them are either disengaged or actively disengaged. About 17%. So 80% are in that category, right, where they're disengaged or actively, and about 70% are actively disengaged. They don't love their work.
Let's stop there because I know we're talking about engagement and disengagement, but when you say actively disengaged, disengaged, what does that actually mean?
When you're disengaged at work, you kind of go, it's just a job, right? When you're actively disengaged, you actually try and sabotage that job almost, right?
You're
not
hate
just
your
disengaged,
everyday.
you hate it. You're right. I mean, 1 in 5 people are there. That's a bit like, come on,
20%.
let's get the job of leaders and managers is to get people thriving, moving them to that stage of engagement, energy, difference making, impacting people, and really evolving. We've got to do it, right? You talked about, healing as we start. Healing isn't just curing people's bodies. Healing's curing the mind, curing the spirit. That's what we got to do here. Not killing the spirit, healing the spirit. Don't kill, just heal.
Love that. Don't kill, just heal. I do, I like that. But this can happen in any industry I'm taking, because you could be a work in a sausage factory, or you could be a clinician in a dental practice, or you could be working in a corporate. Well, if you're really, really disengaged, can you still be happy though? You just don't like your work, but you're happy in life.
Yeah, but work's a big part of people's lives, right? And why should work be separate from life in a way? Yes, you can have a life outside work, but as a person, you want that really good spirit in everything you do. Whether you're engaging with your workmates, whether you are engaged and interested and immersed in whatever you do, making sausages. What's it about sausage factories? Why do you like that? It's your example in a lot of things. What is it?
It is, because a lot of people say, oh, well, it's like working in a sausage factory. I do the same thing day in, day out. There's no excitement in what I do. So I don't physically mean a sausage factory, but literally, you're doing the same thing day in, day out.
And that's the thing. People get monotonous. There's this thing, right? The work you do has got to be the right level of challenge. Because if that work is too easy and repeating and monotonous, you get bored. And if that work is too challenging, you get a bit anxious, you get a bit worried, you get a bit tense. And it's about getting that right level where you think, this is challenging enough for me, and it gets me into doing something I really want to do. And you know what? When I do this work, I know the output's going to make an impact on someone and me. That's the hard bit, right? Where you do something that makes an impact on you. You feel good about it, and somebody else benefits from it. I think we've got to do that. It's a leadership thing.
Yeah. And I remember when I first started speaking to you about this thrive stuff.
Yeah.
And I said to Dhru, look, how do you know you're thriving? And he said, Jem, when I'm working, I'm at this level. That's 100%, that's zero. When I'm working, I'm at 100%. When I go on holiday, I'm still at 100%. So your excitement hasn't peaked above where you're working. So you're as excited working as you are going on holiday. And is that thriving, would you say?
Yeah, because every moment feels like that. You know that new concept I came out with? What's it called? The E state. A state is a kind of condition you are in. Psychologically, you're in this vibe, right? To say in a way, E state. You remain in that state all the time, or maybe as often as you can. Yes, you will have some dips, but most of the time you're like in this state, the E state, where you're enduring, you're engaged, you're energized, you're effecting, and you're evolving. Five
E's.
things, right?
Yeah.
5 E's. Get into that state. I promise you, that state's going to make you feel so good. And then you think, I want more of this. I want more of this. You know, don't get your dopamine hits from Facebook Reels and things like that.
But that's fun.
But that's fun. But that's a short-term dopamine hit. That's an addiction. E state's a dopamine hit. That's a real, you know, place where you want to move forward.
Yeah.
You know, making a
Motivated.
difference. Inspired, motivated. I always say motivated is where someone puts a bum in, you know, fire under your bum.
Yeah.
Inspired is when the fire's inside you.
In your belly.
In your belly.
Yeah, got you.
In your soul, man.
All right. So if I'm kind of 50% in my career and I want to get to my 100%, I want to get that, you know, that fire in my belly, how can you help?
Well, why don't you first realize and start with changing how you think?
Right.
You don't need to solve everything. Just say, okay, there's lots going on. I'm going to find maybe those things I can focus on. Yes, there is some necessary things you need to solve, but everything else you filter out. You've got to learn how to say no and then protect your time doing this, right? And the second thing is, let's go deep and find a thing, a problem, a challenge, an obstacle that's meaningful and energetic for you. Find something where you think, you know what, I'm going to try and solve this because, or find a solution to this, or find something and create something around this that will impact and make a difference, not just to me, but to others. That's a good starting point. Now, there's a whole process to doing that, but that's where you want to go. I suppose, you know, you can talk about certain stories, yeah? There's a story of someone I know, let's call him my nephew, and many years ago, he hated school. This guy grew up, his dad worked in hospitality. His dad worked in a business providing and supporting the hospitality sector. So this guy grew up in that world. He loved hospitality. He loved service industry and the business side of it. Anyway, he didn't enjoy school. And his sister was, you know, working hard, doing the grades, planning to go to university. And this guy would tell his mum, listen, Mum, don't worry about it. I'm not going to go to uni, so you can save your money, right? It's like, you've got to
That's
study,
a nice
mate.
thing to say to a parent, though, isn't it?
Come on, parents want aspiration, right? Parents want
True,
you to achieve something, achievement. And this guy goes, don't worry about it. You know, I'll do something in my life. But anyway, he's being picked up from school in Kenya. They used to have drivers. Driver goes to pick him up because parents are at work. One day I went with the driver and he got in the car. And I thought, let's fire the question. The question was, how was school? Maybe I shouldn't have opened that can of worms because he just went, what's the point? I've been studying maths all day. When am I going to use this algebra in all my life, right?
Can I ask you how old he was at that time?
He was about 17.
Right.
Yeah. So he goes, when am I going to learn all this algebra all the time? It's a waste of time, this school thing. Makes me read these books in literature, makes no sense to me. He was kind of at that stage of, you know, disengaged. He just was engaging. He would do his homework, he'd do all the homework, but he felt like one day I'm doing this and one day I'm doing this. And there's just too much homework they give me. What's the point? He didn't have the engagement, he didn't have the energy. He was completely, you know, disoriented and demotivated, as you say. I just feel like this wasn't making an impact on him. And ultimately he felt trapped because like, but I have to go to school. What choice have I got? You know, I've been told I have to pass my exams. How do you change that, right? How do you make a difference on that? So I had a conversation with him.
This is in the car.
In the car.
Right.
And I didn't know, but I had a conversation with him. And then I was dropped home, and he went home. That evening, his mum calls me. She says, "What have you done to him? What did you tell him?"
Oh dear.
So I said, "Oh, what have I done here?" It's just, anyway, she was saying it not in a way of telling me. No, she said, "Hold on." He went home, and he said to me, "I'm not doing all my homework. I'm focusing on maths today." Right? Okay, that's great. And she goes, and he kept the maths tutor at home for 2 hours. So the maths tutor used to come home. Most times about after 40 minutes, he goes, "Yeah, enough now. You can go. I'll do my homework. Don't worry about it." This time he kept him for 2 hours, right? He goes, and he was immersed in his work, and he was fully energized, loving it. And it had an impact on him. And the worst, or the best bit was, the mum said, he wanted to do more of this. What did you give him? That is the difference we want to make in it. You know, when you say where you start, where you go, how can you change someone from that level of, "Oh, this is useless," to, "Yeah, I want to do more of this." Boom. That's the energy.
That is amazing. I mean, for you to change someone's not so much motivation, but their level of thinking in a car journey is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And not only that, he's 17. You know, that's not an easy thing to do for a 17-year-old. So he hasn't even got a career at the moment.
No.
And these people that, you know, we can talk to, you and I, they're kind of in the middle of their career, would you say, towards the end of the career, or at the beginning?
Anywhere.
So you could thrive when you're about to retire?
You could, couldn't you? Because thrive is a state. At every position you're in, you want to get to that E state. Ultimately, I think, you know, bigger picture, life's worth living. Life isn't just chasing that pot of rainbow all day long. Life's about doing something meaningful. It's about always learning. It's about making a difference. And it's about being a different version of yourself day after day. Anybody can do that, right? Everybody can do that if you give them the right kind of spark. That's what you want, you know, become a dreamer.
So if you've done that for your nephew, tell me who's done that for you. Who ignited your spark? Because let's put it this way, you're a clinician, right?
Yeah.
You're a periodontist
Yeah.
in a very busy dental practice in North London. You're a CEO of a very well-known company, and now you're doing this. So what's piqued your interest? Who was the person that kind of sparked you?
I think experience, really.
Apart from me.
Experience. Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, I appreciate that. Do you know, all the people around me, there's a team around me that does this, and I tell you what, it wasn't who, it was what those experiences created. It's too long a story to share, but in essence, those experiences made me question, why am I here? What am I trying to do here? You know, made me question what's my view, what energizes me, brought out creativity within me, you know, and various phases. I think it was the journey, the experience that made me explore these deeper meanings. Those deeper meanings made this position where the spark lit up. And then you're around a group of people who are also sharing the same stories, who are also got the spark. They're not telling me the kind of fast cars they drive or here's my designer shoes. Doesn't interest me. It might interest some others, but what we're talking about was ideas. Ideas and really riveting and inspiring thoughts. And that sort of stuff just lights it up, right? And the fact is, if I'm sparked up and lit up, and the next person sparked up and lit up, and the next person sparked up and lit up, geez, man, fireworks.
Yeah.
What a difference you can make. So I think for me, it was that experience, that journey that created that. And I'm always grateful for that.
Yeah.
It's not fun, but it's grateful.
You've had that thought process, and
Yeah.
you know exactly what you want. But what happens if your neighbour
Yeah.
came knocking on your door, Dhru, and
Yeah.
they said, "Dhru, I know you know you're into all this Thrive stuff. Well, I'm at work and I'm not enjoying it. I like what I do, but I don't like the people."
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody like that? Because obviously, like you're saying, everyone needs to thrive, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What would you say to somebody like that?
I'm going to always say, you like what you do, it sounds like it. What do you want to get out of it? Starting from there, like what's your desire? What do you see as something that you really like what you do? You know, where is it going to be? What will it be solving? And this person then has a vision. We now get I'm here, I want to get there. You know the gap. Then you can start the journey. Okay, to fill that gap, what do you need to solve? What do you need to think? Let's work out how you think, what you work. What can we tweak? Where can we change it? Let's give you some things to learn about. to really ignite their curiosity, right? So first you give them clarity, then you give them curiosity. Through that, you give them creativity. Now you've learned this, how are you going to create something that creates that spark, right? And how does that drive? And once you've created that creativity for them, I think you'll find they just start moving forward and they start evolving, and they have that real zest in their approach. I think that's a good way to go.
That's a brilliant way to go. But there are going to be some people who are just content.
Yeah.
They don't have to be high flyers or thriving. They are happy doing what they're doing. So what would you say to those people?
If you're happy with what you're doing, I don't have anything to worry about. I'm pleased to see you content. Contentedness is one of those things about thriving. But one thing I do ask people is, what difference are you making to advance the human cause, to advance the world a little bit? Because if I'm content in my own small world, I'm peaceful. But to me, it's thinking bigger, it's thinking bolder. It's thinking about being a change maker. You've got kids, I've got kids. We've got to leave a world for them, which is going to be a better place. There's so many challenges in this world. And if you're content, just ask yourself, what challenge can you pick up that may make the world a better place? It's not for you. It's for a bigger world out there. You were brought into, I believe the universe is massive, and, you and I are small dots in this big ecosystem. And that ecosystem flowing with all sorts. And I believe we're just here to advance some cause, and what's the cause you're going to align with? I always ask people that, because I think everyone should be trying that somewhere.
Every time I listen to you and every time I talk to you, I just wonder if you ever have any downtime. What do you do to relax?
Talk to you.
Well, that's good. That's good to know.
No, but I think, what do I do to relax? Life's a relaxation for me. All these things I do, when I'm talking, I feel relaxed. When I'm talking to others and helping them, I feel relaxed. Beyond that, I do need to go into my own zone sometimes. So maybe the walking.
We all do, don't we?
Yeah, and that's part, the walking, the reflection part is great. Playing the keyboard and music makes me happy. Yeah. Listening to music makes me good. I used to play sports. I got my son now who I have fun with. That's relaxing. Sometimes I'll be watching documentaries on TV. Big Bang Theory is always fun to watch. That's another relaxing thing. Different things. Reading a book makes me relax. Some people think that's madness, but listen, reading or listening to a book, audiobooks makes me relax.
You are a bookworm because you haven't got one or two books either, have you? Yeah. Tell everyone how many books you've got and how many do you read in a month, would you say?
I normally try to do a book a week. Recently I haven't while I've been talking about this, but normally a book a week, I think, because I try and keep my brain stimulated. I think everyone should have. But like I said, if you find a strong enough cause that ignites your curiosity, that curiosity is going to make you want to learn.
Yes.
You don't need to learn. You want to learn. And you want to learn, you can only do that if you've got something that fires you up. If it doesn't fire you, then you just want to learn to pass an exam. Don't bother. You'll forget about that. Just get something that you truly, not just learn, but internalize. Because when you learn and internalize things, it becomes part of you. It's the best skill you can have, I say.
It's also when somebody gives something to you with love and meaning. I had an auntie that gave me a small little camera. It was called a Bolex camera back in the day. And I must have been about 9 or 10 years old. And it was just manual. You had to have a tape measure to measure, the subject that you're taking a picture of. And,
to get the focal length.
To get the focal length. And you had to do the aperture. And there's no, we call it TTL now, through the lens. But there was none of that on this camera. Everything was manual. And I remember taking this camera. It was a freezing cold winter's day. When you wake up and you look out the window, it's warm inside the house, and you look out and you think, I know it's going to be cold because everything's grey and frosty. And I found this spider web, and that was frosted over, and I took some macro images of the spider web. And it was just that one image that kind of sparked my interest in video production. So you're right. It could be someone that says something to you or someone that gives you something. And I love that about you because, you can spark someone's interest in pretty much anything, I'd say.
I don't know, but I try. I try and help through. But that's interesting, right? Because your dad even said to you, don't watch too much TV. It might not help you. And now you sit on this side of the TV.
Absolutely,
right?
yes.
I think it is important. We've got to find people's their zone, their element, the thing that lights them up all day
Yeah.
long. It's not a passion. Passion is just what you love.
I was going to ask you if it was passion.
And
Okay.
it's passion's more than that, because passion can become all-consuming, there are different types of passion. There's a guy called Robert Vallerand, and he talks about harmonious passion, and he talks about this obsessive passion. But passion can become obsessive. And the thing with passion is you love it, which is great, but you can get obsessed with it without a direction. That's the thing. And I've been through that, where you're so passionate, but you don't know which way you're going, and you become overwhelmed. You want passion with direction, and when you look at your video production, it's your passion, but what's the meaning, the problem, the challenge that your passion goes to solve that's going to add value to other people's lives? Because now you get that direction. Like I said, start with curating the problem, right? And then create the curiosity and creativity. Because when you can find a truly, powerfully challenging problem to solve, then your passion kicks in to help you power up that solution to make a difference for others.
And when you talk about passion, it could be passion in your career, or it could be a passion in a hobby that you may even have as well. Just getting yourself off the chair and doing something, right?
You don't even have to push yourself. The thing with these sort of stuff is that nobody needs to tell you to do it. You're just drawn towards it, right? Because it kind of feels like the real you. And I was talking about e-space. What's the e-space? The real, genuine, authentic you, lit up, sparked up, making a positive change. So it's not just you lit up, it's the real you. So the passionate, authentic person making a change. I think that triangle could make a big, big difference. And if everyone somehow found that, we'd make leaps and bounds of improvement as the human race.
I tell you what, Dhru, I can speak to you forever and ever and ever, but I've only put 50p in the light meter and it's running out soon, so we better say our goodbyes. But promise me one thing, can we come back and talk about Thrive Diaries Volume 3?
Volume 3, maybe. Yeah, we go Thrive Diaries Volume 3. Tongue twister, that.
I told you that at the beginning before we started. Dhru, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody else, we'll see you very soon.